I'm Jonathon Coudrille. My parents gave me the middle name Xavier because they doubted I'd ever learn to write, and when I made my mark it would look like an initial. I'm a lizard onion. I was conceived in the little cottage next door to Llandywednac Church, which is now gentrified and called Trewidden, but at the time of my conception it was called Why Worry. I spent my early years on the road and was basically brought up backstage on the variety circuit, where I learned voice production and movement and knife throwing and music. And all these many, many years later, I am a fully formed human being. You particularly wanted to know about tales on tour. I had the great pleasure to tour with a Cossack troupe. And let's think of one particular journey. The Canadian tour was wonderful. We had a proper setup there. The South African tour was wonderful. The European tour slightly less, because we had the singer and the balalaika player had an accident and ended up in hospital, and I was the only person with a credit card, and we had to hire vans to get us from England to Switzerland in about 3/4 of an hour. Difficult. I was also the only one with a driving license for that one, and I ended up driving the van with Georgians in the back. A beautiful Georgian girl who had a temper like a hellcat, and a Georgian acrobat who was a wonderful, wonderful dancer. They dance on their toes, you know, because the paths on the mountain are extremely narrow, and the only way you can get around is on the tip of the toe. He was quite an angry man, and he was made more so because he'd consumed a couple of pints of brandy on the boat going from England to the continent. And we had another Georgian who was sitting in the front seat with me, who actually ran the troupe. And the Georgian in the back suddenly said to that one, he said, "Geordie, I want to fight you." And he said, "No. Okay, calm down." "No, I want to fight you. I'm Georgian. You're only half Georgian. I want to fight you." He said, "John, stop van." And I said, "I can't. We're very, very late. We're driving through a blizzard, doing about 80 miles an hour, opaque screen. And of course, if you want to stop a horse-drawn vehicle, what do? You kill the horse." So I suddenly felt a jerk on my Doctor Who, it was the old days, Doctor Who scarf, like that, and I was pulled backwards by this angry man and had great difficulty in actually stopping the van safely on the hard shoulder. And the fighting man stood up in order to do the fighting, and suddenly lost it and lost the contents of his stomach all down my neck, which was a sobering experience for us both. Later, much, much later, we actually pulled into the yard where the funicular railway went up to the Schatzalp Hotel, I think it was. It's one of these little things, you have to reach it by a funicular railway. And the railway had gone up for the last time because we were hours and hours and hours late. Finally, somebody had to climb up the steps and fetch the man down to pull the railway down. We loaded all the gear, all the bags of boots. If you tour with a Cossack company, there's a whole trunk full of boots, dancing boots, boots and boots and boots. And these got tipped out into the snow and mixed up, which so they had to be put back in the hamper, and all the other gear and the instruments and everything into this little railway, and we in the little railway, and we ended up at the Schatzalp Hotel. We were supposed to do the cabaret at 8 o'clock. It was 11 o'clock when we arrived. People were not best pleased, and they said, well, we could play to the empty ballroom if we wished, but they certainly weren't going to give us rooms for the night as per the deal. And we did a fairly half-hearted performance because, of course, the boots had all got mixed up, and sorting out the lefts and the rights had not been an entirely successful business. So the dancers were a little less sparkling than they usually were. And we were put to sleep on the tiles around the swimming pool. I think that's probably enough of that particular trip, but it went on because further into the tour, we had a bunch of wonderful Australian girls with us who were second generation Ukrainians, so they danced amazingly, ballet trained but Ukrainian heritage. And they thought it would be rather fun to go and have a look at the bridal suite in the grand hotel that we were at next. And I think they'd taken a little bit of happy powder or something because they thought it would be fun to all have a bath with some of the boys. And they overflowed the bath through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hotel floors, bringing down the ceiling in the upper one. We didn't have anywhere to sleep that night either, and we had to do a runner in the van. Now, this would have been fine. It was a Mercedes van, and they're very powerful, very tough thing. We had to go across the Alps in a blizzard at night, and the gear lever broke off. So my friend who had vomited down my neck was given a pair of pliers, and he lay on the floor. He'd been a tank driver during a war, so he knew about gears, and he lay on the floor with the pliers, changing the gears for me whilst I tried to wipe the windscreen with my hand through the window because the wiper also backed up. Forgive me, but Ben's little tale about a flat battery by comparison was a doddle. We did arrive at our destination. We finished the tour. Another small mishap. The acrobatic dancer put his back out, dancing on a stainless steel floor, and I had to improvise osteopathy on him on the billiard table in the next place we went to. And I'd been under the osteopath's hands, but I'd never actually done it myself. But I thought what you have to do is to relax this extremely muscular and angry man. And I described, he was fond of the ladies, I described a girl undressing under a towel on the beach, and to my amazement, he was utterly hypnotized. He went tranced out completely and utterly, and I was able to chuck him about on the table and go click, 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 and put his back right. I've never done it before or since, and as I did it unlicensed, no doubt I could be sued for malpractice. But it worked. And we finally ended up at the grand concert in a lovely concert hall, and went backstage to meet the tour manager who booked us for this wonderful thing, only to find that he had gone off on Sacha Distel's yacht with all our money. There we go, that's the tour.